Hey, I'm glad to see everyone here. It's going to be kind of fun. And again, as Katie said, I'm from the Recreation Department for anyone that doesn't know. But a little bit about myself. Before I came to the college and started working at MCC, I spent almost 4 years at the Montcalm County Animal Control and Animal Shelter. And I basically took that job because I just really saw a need for animal welfare in this country, or in our area. And it was just important to me that, you know, to step up and to be a voice and to do as much as I could for the animals in our community. So, like I said, I spent about 3.5, 4 years there. We did a lot of positive things, and it was a really positive experience. And we encouraged people to come in and volunteer and to help out. And I would guess, by a show of hands, how many people have a dog or pets in general, right? And that's probably why most of you are here, right? That's great. We are on a very limited schedule here, so obviously we're not going to be able to cover a wide variety of things, but I would like to share just some really interesting facts about dogs that a lot of people, maybe they don't know. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about some rescue dogs, and then I really want to spend the majority of the time talking about service dogs and military dogs. So with that, I'd like to start with, everyone knows the story of Balto and Togo. Okay. Anybody that really doesn't know that story, it's a great story. Katie's got some books here on it. Of course, you can find everything online as well. But just to share a few interesting facts, Balto and Togo were the two sled dogs from the 1925 Nome, Alaska trip. The children in that town had come down with diphtheria and life-threatening disease. And it was just so happened to be during a snowstorm, a severe snowstorm. Planes couldn't get in, and the closest train could get about 675 miles away from where the medication needed to be. So about 20 teams of dog sled, they call them mushers, all took part in each handling a leg to try to get the serum to the people that needed it. And every one of them averaged about 30 to 35 miles each, and they just kept handing off the serum. And again, Balto and Togo are two of the famous dogs because Balto actually handled the last leg, 53 miles in a snowstorm where they couldn't even see the trail anymore. Basically, the only way that the lead dog could get to Nome was by smelling the previous tracks under inches and inches and a foot of snow. So pretty amazing and remarkable when you think about that. And that's why I've always dogs are my heroes. They are superheroes basically. When you consider that man at that time and all our accomplishments, we could have never made it without them. Those people would have never survived. Togo was kind of the unsung hero of that story. Togo was the lead dog on the team right before Balto, but that dog actually was a 12-year-old husky mix. So you're thinking a 12-year-old dog was pushing, and a large breed dog, that's pushing senior citizen status. So that was a lot of work for that dog, and it actually covered 260 miles. Most dogs were going 30 miles, but a lot of the dogs couldn't handle it. Unfortunately, a lot of them died on that journey, and they needed really experienced, determined dogs, and that's where Balto and the story of Balto and Togo came in, is because they really were the main reason why the serum got to the children of Nome. So great story. Like I said, you can read it. Katie's got books on it. It's just really awesome. Yesterday was Veterans Day, which is awesome, and we always salute our veterans. Actually now, March 13th is Canine Veterans Day. The military has issued March 13th, the Veterans Day for canines. They do so much for the military, but they weren't always recognized. But we can go way, way back, actually to the Civil War. Dogs have been in every major conflict with American soldiers. The 11th Pennsylvania Artillery unit, volunteer unit in the Civil War, they had a dog. Her name was Sally. One of the soldiers had brought that dog with him as a companion, and the dog slowly became friends with everybody in the artillery unit, in the infantry. And actually, she was at the Battle of Gettysburg, and during that battle, because it lasted for several days, during that battle, the dog became separated. So they lost Sally, and they couldn't figure out where she was. And as everyone knows, if you look at your history, the Battle of Gettysburg was a terrible, terrible loss of life on both sides. And 3 days later, after the battle had ended, as the Union soldiers were scouring the battleground, they found her, and she was actually out guarding and protecting the wounded soldiers that were still left on the battlefield. So pretty amazing. And again, a lot of these early dogs in combat, they were untrained. They were just all going by compassion and their ability to love and to care and to be a part of the pack of humans that they call their own. So that was a really neat story about Sally, and I'm sure you can find a lot of stuff online about her. Now we're going to take a look at the board for a minute. I'm going to step away just for a second from some of our history dogs. I just want to point out this picture in the middle. This is actually a memorial to military dogs. It's in San Antonio, Texas. It shows a handler with 4 dogs. Typically, each handler would only have 1 dog, but what this represents is the sculpture is actually 4 different breeds of dogs, and they're the top 4 that are used in the military. German Shepherd, Black Lab, Doberman Pinscher, and then I think the one back there is what's called, it's really hard to pronounce, but it's the Belgian Malinois. If you ever heard of that, it's quite a phenomenal dog. The picture here is of Conan. He's Belgian Malinois. He was actually, the Navy extensively works with this breed of dog, specifically the Navy SEALs. And Conan was actually a member of SEAL Team 6 who took out Bin Laden. So they're everywhere. So it's pretty amazing. They're a hardworking dog. Just some pictures of training. They're not afraid of heights. They're not afraid of anything, basically. They parachute as well as rappel from helicopters. They are incredibly strong swimmers and water dogs. If you ever really want to see a super dog in action, you should go to a YouTube video and look up the Belgian Malinois, because it's amazing what they can do. I've watched videos where they literally scale like a 20-foot high straight cement wall from a running start, and some of the obstacles that they have them jump over is just phenomenal. So great dog. The military loves them. Of course, the military uses labs here, German Shepherds, a lot of different type of bloodhounds and things are also used. The base in San Antonio is also the main area where military dogs are trained for service. And again, the nice thing about the military now is the dogs are recognized as soldiers. They are given military funerals. They are awarded ribbons, badges, medals, Purple Hearts, and when they're retired, they are allowed to be adopted out by their handlers, families of the handlers, families of the soldiers that they worked with. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case a long time ago. It's very sad. World War II was when we really started to see the military dog in action. And actually, believe it or not, the war had already broke out, and it wasn't until like 1943 or 44 that the Department of Defense actually asked people to show your patriotism for the cause by donating your dog to be trained as a military dog in the war effort. A lot of people did this. They stepped up, and what they did at the time was they would take the dog into training. If the dog couldn't pass the training, then it was given back to the family. If it did pass the training and it served in combat, if it survived, it would be given back to the family then at the end of the war. So it's kind of how that all got started. The Korean War saw more of an influx then of the Army actually training Doberman Pinschers. They were very popular at the end of World War II and in the Korean War. The enemy soldiers, they said that it was very popular for the North Koreans to use megaphones and use tape recordings to try to discourage soldiers and ask them to go home and leave, and we don't want you here. That was kind of a tactic used in warfare. And a lot of times they would always say, and don't forget to take your dog with you. And they hated the dogs over there because they were excellent trackers. They would warn the sentries of incoming troops. They were high alert. They detect bombs. So they were a value. Vietnam, they were the same way. One general said that in Vietnam, there would probably be 10,000 more names on the Vietnam Wall if it wasn't for dogs at the time. So specific camps where snipers were, devastating American troops, and they brought in black labs and German shepherds, and they alerted the sentries to snipers. They alerted them to just about any movement. They were excellent trackers. And again, this was at a time when, unfortunately, and this is the sad part, but we've evolved, but dogs were seen as surplus back then. And when we pulled out of Vietnam, we left a lot of those dogs behind. And that's, obviously that's never going to happen again, because now they're part of us. So they've showed their showed their worth to the American soldier, as well as just anyone who is a pet owner. Now, I skipped over something. I want to go back here. I want to show you this picture up here, this cute little guy. This is Sergeant Stubby, and it's very famous, and Katie's got some books on him as well. Sergeant Stubby was a dog that was snuck into the military by a soldier. World War I, it was in France, a lot of trench warfare. So Stubby was brought in to the point where he would alert them when the enemy was coming in. So he saved countless lives by this. Here's Otto, by the way. I apologize. I didn't introduce Otto when we started. So if you want, just wave your hand. Otto will come around and introduce himself to you. Actually, Otto is Katie's dog. I was going to think about bringing my dog in today, but I think that would have been a nightmare. Otto's been really good, so we're gonna stay there. But back to Sergeant Stubby. He alerted the soldiers, and especially back in World War I, when unfortunately there was still the use of poison gas and mustard gas. He could detect that, the fragments of that in the air, and he would always alert the soldiers, and they always knew that there was either incoming shells, incoming troops, or put your gas mask on. So he saved countless lives. So pretty amazing for an untrained dog. He's going basically off his instincts to love those around him. Up here, let's go back to World War II. This is Chips. Chips was a little husky German Shepherd mix. And again, he was basically, for the most part, an untrained dog. He was donated. The military took him in. He got so popular because he loved the troops so much. He actually served in Italy, North Africa, and France. So he was all over. And I think he mostly traveled with General Patton. He was very famously well known for, while he was wounded in action, he actually leapt out of a foxhole and charged an enemy machine gun next, and rendered that enemy machine gunner partially immobile, so the American troops then could get in and detain that individual. And in that process, he was also able to fend off 10 other enemy troops at the time. So it's pretty amazing when you think about that. They are just so out to please. And again, just pictures. Labs are very, very popular just because they're really, really good dogs. They're really easy to train. And that's what the military looks for. Dogs that are easy to train, they're obedient, and they want to please. And a lot of those top breeds do that. But to be honest with you, just about every dog is like that. When I was at the shelter, there wasn't any dog that you couldn't work with and couldn't train. It was a beautiful experience to see that, and I appreciate the years that I spent there. It actually helped me grow as an individual to appreciate my four-legged friends even more than I already did. So, but anyway, that basically talks about our board. I just wanted to see if there was anything else here that I missed. I know we're just about out of time. I did want to talk really quick, and I want to get this in, because we did really cover military dogs. And as we know, there's just dogs in all sorts of service for us as individuals, not just wartime, but there's therapy dogs, there's seeing eye dogs, there's everything. Search and rescue is a big thing now too. Search and rescue dogs. Back in about 2010, I don't know if anybody remembers it, there was an earthquake in Haiti. It was 7 point something, which was enormous. It leveled Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and killed close to 200,000 people. And so the Los Angeles County Fire Department, Search and Rescue, they took about 7 teams of handlers and dogs over there just to try to look for people. And there was a black lab that they took over there that had been trained. Her name was Pearl. And actually, it's funny because we did a fundraiser where we built outside kennels at the shelter, and actually we called that fundraiser Project Pearl. We named it after her because she was such an amazing dog, and we were trying to do a great thing there. So it was a good story. But Pearl actually went over to Haiti, and they actually found 12 survivors. Some of them I think Pearl found the last survivor five to 7 days after the actual earthquake, still buried in rubble, alive. So she found 6 survivors herself out of the 12 that were found by the dogs that were brought over. And her handler actually made a comment about, as he would watch her work and dig through the rubble and try to indicate, he said he could tell that there was something about her because she would go above and beyond the training that she received. You know, and obviously he was part of the training and he knew what that was. And he goes, you could just tell the dog was just going above and beyond what she normally was trained to do. So there's feelings in there, you know, and there's care and there's love in there. So Pearl was quite a hero. And the funny thing is Pearl was rescued out of a shelter, you know, in Nevada. You know, here she was given up on and sent to a shelter, you know, and here she'd rescued, you know, 6 people herself. She continues to do that work. So it's pretty amazing. It's great. 9/11 saw a lot of the same thing. And I don't know if you guys have read a lot of stories about search and rescue dogs that way, but typically if they get in a situation where they don't find survivors or they find individuals who are deceased, a lot of times what they have to do is they have to have a volunteer go around, bury themselves a little bit, and let the dog find them, because they get depressed and they get sad and they get, you know, they don't work as well when they don't find someone alive. That's their goal, is to find someone alive. So when you think about that, you know, there's compassion there as well in these dogs. So pretty amazing stuff. But I better cut it off right there. I know we're pretty much run out of time.